Hello, my beautiful purse junkies, and welcome back to another video. I always get on and don't have myself together, but I am finally back at my son's and preparing for another trip. So I was in Boston at my niece's graduation from Boston College School of Law. I had a very, very peaceful and restful time. But let's talk about it, folks. Living with a disability, traveling with a disability. And let's talk about me in particular. I know that I don't talk in depth about my disability, and for most, it probably appears as though I don't have a disability and that I'm able to really adapt to life. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, I can actually do ABC. But the challenge is once I start moving around outside of what is considered my normal comfort zone, which is home. So I recently went to Boston, and I had a layover in Charlotte. Charlotte is a very, very, very large airport. Thankfully, my layover was it wasn't long, but it was enough. The time was enough for me to get from one gate to the next because I had to walk the longest mile. And so I was able to take my time, and I had my cane, and I was able to navigate through the airport. And the blessing with that airport is that the letters are huge, right? Because I didn't want to have someone push me in a wheelchair through that airport because I'm 6'4". I'm a big girl. I'm not fat, but you know what? When you're tall, you still have weight. So I'd rather take my time and get through the airport. And my itinerary says that I'm visually impaired, so they offer, and I can either accept or decline. So I decline. Excuse me. One of the additional issues with my vision is I have poor depth perception, right? So in Boston, it's not even plain. It is quite hilly. It is quite bumpy. There are a lot of bricks. It's just uneven territory. So me walking through the streets of Boston, I promise you, someone probably thought I was drunk because I just couldn't keep my balance because on the bricks are kind of like, and they're just not, they're not even. And so my eyes are doing this, trying to fix it. It was a mess. And then, like, here for me to differentiate that there's a step down, we have yellow markers. Well, their markers are like a deep green, which oftentimes and kind of like blend in with the road. So I had a couple of stumbles thinking that I'm just walking off onto, just like regular, like there's no change in my steps. And so when I should have been stepping down, I was walking like normal. Then I was not able to identify that there were steps going on somewhere was just a flat surface. To me, it looked like it was a step going up. So I'm like putting my foot up to like take a step. That was by far one of the most difficult parts of my trip. So I decided to stay put. I was blessed to have a Panera Bread across the street, a 7-Eleven across the street, a Dunkin' Donuts across the street. Everything was right there where we were staying, and which made my life so much easier. But I say all of that to say this: sometimes I get a reality check on the depth of my condition. Like, when I'm home and I move around so freely, it's because nothing moves in your house. The bed stays where it is, the desk stays where it is. Nothing moves unless I move it, right? So the brain acclimates and it just, you kind of like go with it. But once my surroundings change, now my brain is like, hey, wait a minute, what's up? What's going on? So that was my journey, part of my journey. Um, at the graduation, if there was one person, that one person turned to two. So imagine if there were 100 individuals there, that 100 turned to 200. Now imagine 100 individuals that turned to 200 all moving at the same time. My brain was like, please find a chair and sit down somewhere because it's just too much right now. So we kind of like found a spot for me to just stand stationary and not move too much. And luckily, we got there, and we didn't get there late, but we got there when everyone was seated. So I was able to walk in and find a seat. And the stadium was not crowded because the graduation was only solely for the School of Law, which was beautiful because I know when I graduated from college, I'm sorry, they had all the colleges. You had business, you had law, folks with their PhD. They were calling everybody. But I was so happy that has since changed. I'm sorry, folks. So I was able to get through that process. And then on my way back home, so my daughter, we got to the airport. My daughter was there with me. And luckily in Boston, it wasn't very busy, so I was able to navigate to the gate. Got to Charlotte. Whoa, it was a different story. It was jam-packed. Now, at that point, I was like, oh, Andrea, maybe you should have gotten someone to take you to the next gate. But, I didn't. I chose to, I sat down somewhere and I had a bite to eat. And by that time, it had calmed down a little bit. And so I was able to take my time and walk. And like I said, in Charlotte, the letters are huge. So you can't, if you have some vision, you will be able to see. So the letters were huge. And I was able to navigate my way to my gate. Now, I'm in Charlotte, and I don't necessarily sit and stand with, they'll put you folks with disabilities in one area because they will you to that area. I'll sit off with, on a side where I'm not amongst a lot of folks because I don't want that confusion. So when the plane started to board, I got up to go with people with disabilities. So I was the last person, and as I walked up, the guy just put the rope up. And he goes, we're not boarding yet. And I said, aren't you boarding people with disabilities? And he just kind of like dismissed me. And I was like, okay. So I patiently waited because the flight was not so crowded where I had to avoid a lot of people. So I was like, Andrea, just relax. So I waited for him to call my section. So I waited for everyone to go ahead of me. So I went up and I said, I have a question. So American Airlines does not allow for people with disabilities to board the plane first. He goes, well, I have a list, and I called those individuals. I said, well, I have been able to board and have not had a problem up to this point. And he goes, well, You didn't say anything. I said, well, I did. I said, I asked you, do you allow for people with disabilities to board at this time? And you just kind of like dismissed me. I said, but no worries, it's okay. I said, but thank you so much for your help. Because I was not about to get in the no-fly lifts with this idiot because he just wanted to be a jerk. So I said, you just write a nice little letter to corporate, because my ticket clearly states that I have a disability. So, of course, I get back here to my home base. Now, I have to call for a Lyft or Uber. Now, it is Sunday, and I said, let me go to Lyft, because Lyft is pretty quick in responding. I put in for Lyft to see if, what the rates are, or whatever, the wait time. Child, tell me why the price came up $100 just to get from where I was to my home. I said, no, sir, we're not doing this. I went straight to Uber. Went to Uber, $27. Let me tell you, it's a time. It's a little scary because I am dependent, and I do depend on others to get me from A to B from time to time. But I've learned to be patient and be mindful of others and what they have going on and things that they need to do, and try and schedule around that. And I think this trip wasn't a test, but it was a knock on the door to say, Andrea, yes, you do have a disability, and it is real. Although it is not seen and you don't make it evident, but my limitations when I'm out make it evident to me. Hence why I don't travel, why I don't like to be out alone. So when I was away in Boston, I was never alone. The only alone time that I had was traveling back here, and that was easy because you get from your gate to your car, and your car to your front door. And once I'm inside, I lock up and I did not go back out. And I have been in the house since Sunday. And my son and his family got back last night. So he's off today, and I get to go out and run a couple of errands with my son. So that was my weekend. While yes, I did enjoy spending time with my family, I just had a knock on the door, like knock, Andrea, slow your roll. Oh yes, and I did carry my cane, and I did use my cane when I arrived to. When I arrived at the airport in Boston, and I got through TSA, and I had my cane because I know it's very busy in the area, and I didn't want to knock anyone. I didn't want to run into anyone. So there was a young lady there, and I thank God she was there, and she saw my cane. She gave me grace, and this guy just, and she was like, how disrespectful of him. And I said, sweetheart, I did not see him. She goes, but he saw you. I said, no worries, because it would have been a head-on collision, and when I'm walking with this cane and I'm going full force, it is what it is. But I've learned, yes, carry your cane. Folks don't know. Times are different. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want anyone to think that I'm being real disrespectful if I were to bump into them. So the same grace that I ask for them, I must also provide. So, but that was my little story time on my trip this past weekend, and I am now preparing for another trip, which Yeah, this place is a mess, but I am going to get it together. I'm packing my bag today so that I don't have to go back into anything because I refuse to. I want to get everything packed, done, and just sit the suitcase by the door or sit it in the garage. But folks, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions regarding my vision, please feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to share it with you. If you would like to spend a day with me while I'm out, I will be more than happy to do that. It's quite boring because I kind of like know what I want to do. So I go, I do what I need to do, and I'm out. I'm not one that just want to wander around unless I'm in TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ross, or Dollar Tree, or Publix. That's it. If I'm not at those stores, I'm home. So, folks, like I said, if you have any questions, please send me an email or put in the description box, and I'll be more than happy to address your questions. Thank you so much for watching.